Hello, sixth graders. It's Mr. Gardell on this great day. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I know I'm having a fantastic day because I'm, quote unquote, here with you. All right, let's get started. There were three different types of canoes that were used during the fur trade. The first canoe we're going to learn about is the Montreal canoe. The Montreal canoe was enormous. It was anywhere between 36 and 50 feet in length, carried between 10 and 14 people, and could hold up to 3 tons or 6,000 pounds of goods. It was used between Montreal and Grand Portage, and I'm going to show you a map in a couple minutes so you better understand how the Montreal canoe was used between Montreal and Grand Portage and back to Montreal. But I want to first go through and go over the two additional canoes that were used during the fur trade. But I want you to think of the Montreal canoe like the semi truck. Okay, the semi truck is a massive vehicle going down today's highways. The Montreal canoe was a massive canoe going down the highways or rivers and lakes during the fur trade. And if you forgot, remember the fur trade was between right around 1650 to 1850. The medium-sized canoe is known as the North Canoe. It was about 24 feet in length, could carry between 4 and 10 people, held up to 1.5 tons of goods or 3,000 pounds of goods, and was used between Grand Portage and the interior fur trading post. Again, I'll show you on a map where Grand Portage is and where those interior fur trading post was and how this canoe was used during the fur trade. Think of the North Canoe as a truck, okay? Not as big as a semi truck, not as small as a car. The last canoe, think of as a car, that's the Ojibwe canoe. This canoe was right around 15 feet in length, carried two people, and was used on smaller lakes and rivers. If you've ever been in a canoe, most likely it's the Ojibwe type of canoe that you've been in, that smaller canoe that you went to a grandparent or even a parent's cabin. You probably used an Ojibwe style type of canoe. All right, now let's take a look at how these canoes were used. Okay, so the Montreal canoe was the largest of the three canoes, and really what that purpose of that canoe was to transport a lot of goods great distances. So these massive ships would bring in all these European goods from Europe through the St. Lawrence River and stop at Montreal. In Montreal, those ships would be loaded with European goods, guns, metal axes, brass and tin kettles, glass beads. And then those European goods would be placed on these Montreal canoes. Remember, Montreal canoes were huge, could hold a lot of goods. And from there, those European goods would then be transported to Grand Portage. And once at Grand Portage, then a smaller canoe, the North Canoe, would take those European goods and transport them to the interior fur trading post. But before we get into that, from Grand Portage back to Montreal would be the pelts that would be placed in these canoes. And from Montreal, those pelts or furs then would ultimately be shipped, okay, out to European countries, Great Britain, France, where then those pelts, especially the beaver, could be then converted or made into hats. All right. So the interior fur trading post in Grand Portage, that's where goods would be transported as well. And think of Grand Portage as a place that would have all these European goods. And from there, these European goods would be transported to these different fur trading posts within present day Minnesota. So it could be uh, brought to Sandy Lake fur trading post, Mille Lacs fur trading post, Snake River fur trading post. And there, those European goods would be placed inside these fur trading posts. And it was then the Dakota or the Ojibwe could go into these fur trading posts, see the European goods, and then make a trade for the pelts and the animals that they had trapped and hunted with these Europeans. And again, the smallest of the canoes, the Ojibwe canoe, would just simply be used to transport people from place to place on those smaller lakes and rivers. So that essentially was the canoes that were used during the fur trade. Again, they are the Montreal canoe. Think of again that canoe as the semi truck. The North canoe, that again would be similar to, say, a truck in today's times. And the Ojibwe canoe, or a smaller car or vehicle. As always, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, contact your HOA teacher. Take care and have a fantastic day.